Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, hands up if you've ever felt completely lost in the supplement aisle. Just, staring at maybe 50 brands of vitamin D, 10 kinds of fish oil, wondering, is any of this actually legit? Well, if that sounds familiar, this deep dive is absolutely for you. We're really cutting through the noise today, the sales pitches. Our whole mission here is to give you a clear playbook, like a solid framework you can use for judging local retailers, reading those complicated labels with some confidence, and making sure what you buy is, well, actually what it says it is. Potent, pure, properly labeled. We're focusing squarely on quality, verification, and transparency.
And that framework is so critical right now. I mean, the market is just saturated. And when that happens, the risk of getting something counterfeit or mislabeled or frankly just ineffective, it goes way up. This isn't just, buyer beware anymore. It's really about making informed health choices and avoiding wasting your money on stuff that just won't work. We need a clear signal through all that noise.
Right. Okay, so let's unpack that. We're basically looking for stores that either do the homework for us or at least make it easy for us to do it. Where does the trust actually start in this whole system?
It really starts with verifiable proof, documentation. You almost have to think of the retailer as part of your own quality control process. And that means prioritizing third-party testing and certifications. That's paramount, the strongest signals you can look for. Things like ongoing QA audits, transparent sourcing information, and solid relationships with manufacturers who can guarantee, lot fidelity, that the batch is what it says it is. Now let's hit those acronyms right away because they're kind of your shield here. When you're shopping, you absolutely want to look for products verified by independent groups. Think USP or NSF. USP, that's the U.S. Pharmacovigilance Convention, verifies ingredient quality, the potency, and manufacturing practices.
Okay, USP, got it. And NSF, what specific guarantee does that seal give me?
NSF International. Yeah, they're widely seen as a gold standard, especially for purity. Their seal means they've tested to make sure the product isn't contaminated with things like heavy metals, microbes, nasty pesticides.
Yeah.
And crucially, that the bottle actually contains the dose listed on the label. So if you see a retailer stacking a lot of NSF-certified products, that's a really good sign. It tells you they care about purity and standards.
That's a huge difference. Okay, so those seals are the starting point. But the sources we looked at kept coming back to certificates of analysis, COAs. Why is demanding a COA maybe the single most important thing you can do for a, let's say, high-confidence purchase?
Right, the COA. It's the proof for the specific batch sitting on that shelf right now. It's the science bit.
Mm-hmm.
If a store can just pull that up for you easily, and you can trace the batch number back to the facility, then you've basically confirmed that the product you're holding was recently tested for key things. Usually that's potency of the active ingredient and checks for contaminants like lead or mercury.
Okay, so it's like the product-specific report card for that batch.
Exactly. And that level of transparency, it's really driving the market now. Consumers want clean labels. They want plant-based options, full traceability. So the retailers who are open about their QA processes, maybe even publish supplier audits, they're the ones earning that trust, that higher confidence purchase.
Okay, let's try and put this verification stuff into practice. Let's use some common examples because I imagine the kind of verification you need changes depending on what you're actually buying, right?
Absolutely. It's not one size fits all.
Okay, take omega-3s, fish oil, algae oil, that sort of thing. If I'm looking for quality there, what specific thing should that COA prove?
Great example. For omega-3s, yeah, potency matters, getting enough EPA and DHA. But maybe even more important is stability and purity. The oil can go rancid, right? So the COA must show low levels of oxidation. There's a measure called T-TOIC-X, total oxidation value. If that's high, the oil is bad. And you definitely need heavy metal screening, especially for mercury in fish oil. So if your local shop can quickly show you a COA confirming low TOX and low heavy metals for the batch they have, that's a store you can likely trust for these higher risk supplements.
That really makes the process targeted, doesn't it? Okay, let's switch gears to shopping strategy. Say I've done my homework, I have my list of questions. How does the way I buy it, like going into the store versus, say, curbside pickup, change how well I can verify the quality?
Yeah, that's a good point. Each option has its trade-offs, definitely. Convenience versus how deep you can dig into verification. Going in-store, well, that gives you the most direct power. You can physically pick up the bottle, look for those USP/NSF seals we talked about. You can ask the staff specific questions. Can you show me the COA for this lot? Where's this sourced from? You can talk to them about, different forms of ingredients if you're unsure. Best approach is to walk in prepared, list in hand.
Okay, that makes sense. But what if I want the convenience? I opt for curbside or local pickup. Am I automatically giving up on verification?
Not necessarily, but the responsibility shifts more onto you before you buy. The crucial thing is you need to confirm, maybe by phone or online chat, that the retailer can provide the COA and verify lot numbers remotely before you place the order or drive over. If their customer service can't confirm COA availability for the current stock they'd be picking for you,
Yeah.
then maybe that convenience isn't worth the risk you're taking on verification.
That's a really powerful pre-check. Just a quick call or chat before you even think about visiting or clicking buy. Ask, can I see a COA for the current batch? And can your staff actually help with label questions? That seems like a good way to sort the serious retailers from, well, the others.
Precisely. And that leads us right into label literacy. Because reading that label correctly, that's your main line of defense against stuff that's ineffective or, worse, mislabeled. We really have to dig into what to look for beyond just the main ingredient name.
Okay, yeah. This is where I feel like the industry can get a bit tricky. Let's talk about the dreaded proprietary blend. I see this all the time on things like B complexes or the specialty energy formulas. What's the actual danger there?
The proprietary blend. It's essentially a black box, isn't it?
Yep.
The label will list a total amount for the blend, maybe say it contains ingredient A, B, and C, but it hides how much of each ingredient is in there.
Right.
Often this is a way to include just a tiny, maybe ineffective amount of an expensive ingredient, while bulking out the blend with cheaper stuff. You just don't know the dose.
So your first defense is?
Scrutinize that ingredient list.
Yeah.
Really look at it. If you see a blend, you should try to get clarity from the retailer. If they can't provide it, maybe move on. Always compare the serving size and the active ingredient amounts to the recommended daily allowance, the RDA. And watch out for hidden fillers, binders, things like artificial colors, or tons of magnesium stearate.
Okay, what about the form of the ingredient? This comes up a lot with minerals. Magnesium, calcium. It feels like there are 10 different versions, and they all say best absorbed. Does the specific form listed on the label actually matter that much?
Oh, it matters hugely, enormously. And it's a massive difference between a quality supplement and a cheap one. Take magnesium, like you said. You might see magnesium oxide. It's cheap, it's common, but it's actually not well absorbed by the body. It often acts more like a laxative.
Right, as opposed to something like magnesium glycinate or citrate.
Exactly. Magnesium glycinate, for instance, is known to be highly bioavailable. People often prefer it for relaxation or sleep support. Magnesium and citrate is also well absorbed. The specific form really dictates both how well your body can use it and what effects you might expect. So if a label just uses the cheapest, least effective form, like oxide, and isn't transparent about it, that suggests the retailer might be prioritizing cost over efficacy. A good, knowledgeable retailer should be able to explain those differences, why they chose this form over that one.
Got it. So the final piece of our label defense strategy is that key action. Demand the batch number and the certificate of analysis. You need to verify that the lot number on the bottle you're holding matches the documentation. And that documentation should prove its accuracy, its purity from contaminants, and maybe even confirm the quality or form of the ingredient used, not just the amount.
That really is the whole game right there. Mislabeled supplements, especially ones hiding drugs or contaminants, they're a real and growing risk. We have to stress this from an expert standpoint. Your absolute best defense is demanding those COAs. Verifying the lot number, ideally against the manufacturer's own records if possible, and really preferring retailers who are open about their quality control, publishing QA processes, supplier audits, that sort of thing.
Okay, this level of, frankly, vigilance needed from the consumer brings us to the bigger picture, the regulatory side in the U.S. Why do you, the consumer, have to be this careful? What's the actual framework here?
Well, supplements fall under DSHEA, the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act. That was passed back in 1994. And the really critical thing to understand about DSCJ is this. Manufacturers are responsible for ensuring their products are safe and labeled correctly. But, and this is the big, but the FDA does not require pre-market approval for general health claims.
So unlike a prescription drug, the company doesn't have to prove the supplement actually works or is even safe before they start selling it.
Exactly. The burden of proof is different. The FDA's main role is post-market safety. They monitor for problems after a product is already out there. This regulatory gap is precisely why those independent third-party verification bodies like USP and NSF are so vital. They step in to provide some of that pre-market testing the FDA doesn't mandate.
So they fill a crucial gap.
They do. Now, reputable producers are required to follow certain standards. They're called CGMPs, Current Good Manufacturing Practices. Now, they aren't identical to the GMPs for drugs, but the FDA's rules specifically, 21 CFR Part 111, set requirements for manufacturing, packaging, holding supplements. The goal is to ensure identity, purity, strength, and composition. So if a retailer makes a point of only stocking brands from facilities that clearly state they adhere to CGMPs, that's another good sign. They're doing a level of vetting for you.
Right. And we absolutely have to include a crucial safety note here, something that always applies. Never just go it alone with complex formulas or high doses. If you're thinking about starting, say, a high-dose vitamin D regimen or taking some complex blend for a specific issue, always talk to your doctor or a qualified healthcare professional first, especially if you take other medications.
Oh, absolutely essential. That partnership with your healthcare provider is key. They can help figure out what you actually need, if anything, and guide you towards appropriate verified options, considering your whole health picture.
Okay, let's wrap up by looking at market trends because it feels like consumer demand is actually pushing retailers towards better practices. It really seems to boil down to those three things you mentioned: transparency, traceability, and of course, convenience.
Yeah, you can see those demands shaping things. Trends like personalized vitamin packs, subscription models, they clearly address the convenience factor.
Yeah.
But traceability, that's the big one, pushing retailers towards things like visible COAs and publishing supplier audits. If they can't prove where their ingredients came from
Yeah.
and that they're pure, whether it's, say, organic turmeric or that algae-based omega-3 we talked about, they risk losing the informed customer.
So, navigating this market successfully really requires, well, it's a blend, isn't it? A blend of healthy skepticism enough to make you verify the paperwork, the COAs, and also curiosity, being willing to explore these genuinely high-quality, transparent options that are out there. And one really practical suggestion, pulled right from the sources we reviewed: maybe build a simple local store directory for yourself, just a quick list. Store name, address, what services they offer, in-store, curbside, and crucially, a note on their COA availability status for current stock. It seems like a simple system, but it could turn that complex verification process into a much faster, actionable comparison when you need to buy something.
That's a great practical takeaway. And it highlights that this whole framework, it requires ongoing effort. Because if you, the shopper, are essentially buying transparency, traceability, and convenience, you have to remember that the local landscape changes constantly. Store policies shift, inventory turns over, staff expertise can vary. So that leads to a final thought for you to consider. If you find a great local retailer today, one who publishes COAs and has knowledgeable staff, how often should you plan to re-verify that? Recheck their COA availability, maybe chat with the staff again, just to make sure your go-to choice remains truly well-informed 6 months or a year down the line. That constant change, that's the final challenge in staying truly informed as a consumer in this space.